Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas made headlines at U.S. Coast Guard headquarters yesterday when he told Cuban refugees not to come here. Protesters are out for the fourth straight day, fed up with their country's inflation, medical shortages, and of course, the communist regime. But the Cubans are attempting to escape actual persecution, unlike the migrants at our southern border. Yet we've been letting them in with open arms and at record numbers. Last I checked, none of them are going through any asylum process before being flown to U.S. and to cities across the U.S. Now, joining us now is someone who's had a personal connection to all of this, Florida State Senator Ileana Garcia. Senator, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Could you share with our viewers your personal connection and also perhaps what you see being covered in the media that perhaps is missing from this story here?
Well, I'll tell you that it is a very tragic situation, what we're watching happen in our mother country, even though our mother country now is the United States of America, where you are watching how communism, socialism is really rolling out. And it's very interesting to see how Bernie Sanders has had nothing to say about it. Neither has AOC. So we're seeing what would happen in the worst case scenario. If we ever roll that out here, it would roll out as socialism, it would become communism, and then we would have voted it in, and then we will fight our way out. So what we're watching is a Cuban against another Cuban, all because of an ideology. So there's scarcity of food, there's scarcity of medicine, there is nothing but a lot of pain right now. When you watch people fighting each other over ideology, or because the government is actually going out and making people fight amongst each other. So one of the things that we've been watching lately is the military come in and sequester young children and saying either you hand them over to us to protect our system, or we will kill you, or we will kill them. So it's really interesting watching how it's all playing out, and then at the same time watching the hypocrisy at the border that I had the honor, I had to give a moment of watching function correctly under the Trump administration.
Right. Senator Garcia, you're so right. There are some really harrowing images and videos coming out of Cuba of those young people literally being dragged out of their homes by authorities. But, I want to ask you here about the U.S. reaction from the White House, because today Jen Psaki was asked about the situation in Cuba, and she used the term mismanagement when she said, why are people protesting? Why do they want to flee Cuba? She said that the island is being mismanaged. Now, look, Baltimore is being mismanaged, okay? But Baltimore is not communist. Cuba's not being mismanaged. It is a communist dictatorship. Why is Jen Psaki, why Joe Biden, why are the Democrats afraid to correctly describe what the reality is of the Havana regime?
Because I think that the mindset has been with this administration to, once again, open relations with Cuba. It is the mindset. It is the left mentality that that they coddle each other, and that for some reason they think that by extending them or helping them in any which way, shape, or form, that the community is actually going to benefit from it. And it doesn't. The money goes right back to the government. All you do is continue to enable a transnational cartel that calls itself a government. And by the way, let me tell you something about the Cuban regime. It is the epicenter of everything that we see tragic in Central and South America. You're watching the ideology roll out because of the modern day slavery established by the Cuban regime, where they have been the pros at rolling out free health care, ordaining people, telling them what to study, what to do, where to go. They are the Communist Manifesto at its best. So when you see what's going on at the border, think to yourself that a lot of that has been perpetrated and has been organized by the Cuban regime from the island, and it's worked its way into Nicaragua, and that's why we still have Ortega, and it has orchestrated its way into all of these countries that have had very poor governance, that think that capitalism, imperialism, as they call it, is a terrible thing, and that governance under a group of small, rich people and is a lot better.
Senator, a lot of folks are looking also to the progressive wing of the Democrat Party. Look at the Squad, AOC. They've been largely silent on what's happening in Cuba. Do you think perhaps that's because in some sense what's happening there is what they envision for the U.S. in terms of sort of a communist state?
Definitely so. You're watching it roll out. I mean, remember that the Democratic Party has an out-of-the-closet communist, Bernie Sanders. Can't deny that. and AOC as well, Democratic Socialists. Just Google it. You're always a Google away from getting a little brighter. So I think that they're staying away from it. They're being very smart strategically for re-election purposes next year, perhaps, to stay away from the reality of what we're seeing here in Cuba right now, and not just in Cuba. We watched it roll out in Venezuela. We've actually been very, very fortunate that the media has taken it on objectively, and we really hope that, for all intensive purposes, if you really care about freedom and rights, and you are about social justice. This isn't about Republican or Democrat. This is about freedom right now. 62 years of oppression, people killing each other over an ideology. This is not about the embargo. This is not about COVID vaccines. This is about the end of socialism and communism as we know it.
Ileana, I want to also ask you about the dichotomy, the differences, that ways in which we are treating the economic migrants at our southern border with Mexico versus legitimate refugees from Cuba. Because DHS Secretary Mayorkas, he literally said to Cubans, who are the very definition of asylum seekers, because they are fleeing persecution from an oppressive regime, he said, do not come here. You will not be allowed into the United States. At the same time, he is welcoming Central Americans who, yes, come from tough places, but from functioning democracies like Honduras and El Salvador, and they are being welcomed with open arms. What do you say about that divergence, and what do you think explains that totally disparate treatment?
Well, the total hypocrisy of this administration. I don't think that we've seen numbers like this since the previous time that Biden worked for the administration while he was working with his buddy Obama. Same thing with unaccompanied minors. My understanding, I was looking at the numbers over at over for CBP, and you've got 500 unaccompanied minors a week. That is tragic. So it's one hypocrisy after the next, and it's definitely something that people need to pay attention to and take it to the next election.
Understood. Ileana Garcia, thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you. Thanks to the both of you. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.